After the election of Donald Trump, I had a kind of artistic crisis. I really felt, what can I do as an artist? And was, really flummoxed. My cousin, who I had only known as a lovely person, posted all this completely racist stuff on the internet. And it was all the same stuff, word for word, practically, that they had said about my grandparents and that I had heard applied to my father in the 50s. And he said, "You don't understand what's happening here in Italy." So I started looking for video about the migrant crisis in Italy. And I found all this stuff from the Italian Coast Guard, where it's just like soul-crushing, the desperation of the people that were crossing the Mediterranean.
Don't worry, stay calm, don't worry, don't worry.
Take this, take.
And then I was also really, really concerned about the climate crisis. So I started looking at the Forest Service fire footage. I was looking at NOAA for extreme storms. And I also was very scared about surveillance culture. So there's sort of all these ways that the government is using video to keep tabs on things. And some of the ways are really positive, and then some of the things are a little more sinister. My husband's father is a Holocaust survivor, and they always talk about people looking away and, turning away. And I thought, I'm not going to turn away at all. I'm going to look at every bit of this stuff. How do all these things intertwine? And where are we in all that? One of the things that I find most distressing, and I think this has to do with being the mother of a granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor, is you just hear all these stories about how people went on with their lives and, sort of went, oh, that's happening over there. And I notice that with myself all the time. I'm trying to change things in my life to be less complicit in all the bad stuff that's going on. That's part of what I'm trying to do with these pieces, is to put people inside of these things and make them feel that all of this is happening on their watch, to them. I want people to think. Mainly, I want the emotion. If you say you were so moved, then maybe you will move. Maybe you'll move in your life with a tiny bit more awareness. And that could be different for everybody. But I think that's what I'm after, is that feeling of emotion. I started working on this before the crisis at the border. I was more driven initially by the crisis in the Mediterranean, because I'd gotten into this big family argument. And then our border crisis really blew up after that. But the idea of the borderline for me is not so much tied to this idea of a physical border between countries as it is the idea of a tipping point. Sort of like borderline insanity, or borderline civilizational collapse, or borderline environmental catastrophe. It's a bigger idea for me that contains these other ideas.